So, traditional Jewish, Christian, and Muslim.
To understand atheist and agnostic as well as many various religious.
Hi, Preston.
Hi, Katie. Are you ready for the Holy Watermelon Podcast?
You mean the
Holy Watermelon Podcast?
Yeah, we have to say it at the same time, else we... Actually, I was re-listening to our first episode, and we don't actually say it at the same time.
Yeah? Oh,
Yeah.
well.
We've really grown as
Right.
podcasters.
I think that's a good thing.
I mean, I hope so after.
After the experience that we've had over the last several months, we should definitely be improving.
This is episode 12, so we're 12 hours of audio. Finished audio.
12 hours of finished audio.
You cut out all the noises we make. Oh, there's got to be another 12 hours out there.
And not counting the lost audio, the couple of episodes we've lost.
We don't talk about the lost audio.
Right.
So I didn't know anything
My
about
knowledge,
our topic today.
Yeah, my knowledge is pretty limited too. And
Not anymore.
Not anymore. But going into preparing this, I was mostly uninformed, definitely underinformed.
Today we are talking about Sikhism. And as if you're a longtime listener, you know I took religious studies in university, and this was one religion we didn't cover, which I'm very surprised by because there are a whole lot of Sikhs in the world. 25 million Sikhs around the world, and we didn't cover it.
Right?
We covered Shinto, we'll do Shintoism next week. We covered Shintoism before we covered Sikhism, and that blows my mind.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, my Intro 102 course had Sikhism on the syllabus, and I think we hit everything on the syllabus except Sikhism.
Oh, no.
Because, sometimes you overdo one thing because you
absolutely.
think it's worth spending an extra day.
Or everyone's dumb. The teacher's like, I
Sure.
gotta get this figured out.
There's loads of reasons you never stick to the syllabus. And if I remember correctly, Sikhism was the thing that suffered because of that.
Wow. Well, let's fill those gaps for ourselves and for everyone else today, shall we?
All right. So where do you want to start?
Well, I was very surprised by how new of a religion it is.
Right? It's only like 500 years old.
Only 500 years old, which is of the big religions, that would be the
New.
newest. I mean, there's iterations of religions that are newer, but like of big brand new ideas, which, I mean, we'll get into that. It's not quite brand new, but brand new ideas. Yeah, it's a little baby religion.
Right. Like most religions, as you said, it's not really new in every sense. It is born of other religions.
Yes.
But this one's not a break off of one religion,
No,
which is kind of cool.
it's, as I was saying, it's a little baby religion. It is the baby of Hinduism and Islam.
Right? It's weird to see
It's
two
just like
religions
its
come together
parents.
and make a baby.
Especially religions that are so vastly different. It's one
Right.
thing when you see Judaism turn into Christianity, turn into Islam, or even now that we've covered Hinduism and Buddhism, there are a lot of parallels in the reincarnation and the life cycle piece of Buddhism and Hinduism. But this is like totally new, but based off of both of them. And I
Yeah.
kind of digged it.
Right?
I dig it. I didn't know this. Sikhism is monotheistic. And
I mean, mostly. So
Well, I guess so.
We remember we talked about those different models of theology, and the simple surface level monotheism is pretty correct.
just like monotheism is pretty correct for Christianity. Come on.
It's more true for Sikhism than it is for Christianity,
Nice.
or for at least most parts of Christianity. Remember how we were talking about how Hinduism is very pluralistic. It's got a wide pantheon of gods that ends up focusing on three gods, that ends up focusing on one god,
Yes.
that ends up being
Everything.
pantheistic instead of polytheistic when you dive in real deep.
Mhm.
For Sikhism, it's got a similar... I dragged on my ass real bad there. It's got a similar effect.
I thought
of-
you said ass, but you said S. I dragged down my ass.
Sikhism is pretty monotheistic on the surface, but it seems like all of the big thinkers of Sikhism, as they dive into it, show that it's a model of theology that we actually haven't addressed, even when we spent a whole bunch of time looking at all the different models of theology. Sikhism shows itself to be panentheistic, which it's like pantheism, but panentheism adds an extra 2 letters.
Yep.
And convolutes it and makes it more complicated. Instead of the idea of pantheism like in Hinduism, where everything is God, eventually, when you break it down, since every living thing is a shard of that Brahman. In Sikhism, panentheism is the idea that everything belongs to God in a, not just in an ownership way, but as like a physical manifestation kind of way, but that God is also greater than the sum of everything in existence. That everything is in God.
And God is in everything. No, that's Hinduism.
I mean, it's not wrong, but it's not quite
There's
right.
a little
Theological
nuance.
models get super nuanced as you want to subdivide further. And so that's where we sit now, with a slightly complicated panentheism in a relatively new religion.
Before we jump into the gurus and how Sikhism started, while we're talking sort of the number stuff, I just thought it was a really fun fact. So there's 25 million Sikhs around the world because it originated in
one of the most densely populated nations on the planet.
India, Pakistan. They have the highest density of Sikhs in the world, but we're in Canada, and Canada has the second highest amount of Sikhs per capita. Now, there's like a big asterisk on this because we don't really have a huge per capita. So the India stat I saw was about 2% of their population is Sikh.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a population of 1 billion people, that's a lot of people. Canada sits about 1.5 Sikhs as our population. We only have 30 million people.
And Sikhs makes up about 500,000 of us.
Yeah, no, and that's a huge number. But relatively speaking, it's still not a lot of people compared to the volume of people in India. But I thought that stat was cool that Canada has the second largest
per capita population
in the world.
Yeah.
The neighborhood that I live in actually has quite a dense Sikh population. Sikhism was founded by Guru Nanak in 1469.
Guru being his title, not his first name.
Yes. And he is the first of 10 successive gurus. And I made some notes on the most prominent of the 10. I'm not going to get into all 10, just the ones that really moved Sikhism
Not
forward.
all gurus are created equal.
No, it's true. So Nanak he was born in Lahore, Pakistan, and he disappeared with some ascetics and had his first mystical experience. And God told him, as God frequently does, is that everyone's doing it wrong, and I'm going to tell you the right way to do it.
He had grown up a Hindu, and his best friend was a Muslim. They spent all their time together, it seemed, according to reports. And they were out together when Nanak disappeared into the river.
The Indus River.
Yes, I think that's right.
I mean, he grew up in the Indus region.
It seems
I assume
likely.
it was the Indus, but...
And he was gone for days, and his best friend and his family were super stressed out about it. And then he showed up after he must have been pulled out of the water by somebody.
If I disappeared in a river for days, would you be worried about me?
We go actually several days without texting each other, so I might not know soon enough.
Oh.
But yeah, I'd be worried to know that you disappeared in a river.
Brant just texts you and says, she's in a river. All right, I'm sorry. They're worried, but he comes back.
He does come back. And like you said, with some big news.
Big news. He was given a mantra from God. And this mantra is still included in Sikh morning devotions. And the mantra is, there is one supreme being, the eternal reality. He is the creator without fear and devoid of enmity. He is immortal, never incarnated, self-existent, known by grace through the Guru, the eternal one from the beginning, through all time, present now, the everlasting reality. That's what he was told by God. And that there is no Hindu and no Muslim. Surprise, it's his third one, Sikhism.
So basically, he wanted everybody to know that both of these models of theology and the actions that come from them were not divinely accepted or approved or helpful.
My note literally says exactly how every other religion started.
I mean, that is the memo that pretty much every religious founder comes out with.
Happened.
Y'all are doing it wrong.
Jesus
Here's
got it.
some news.
Muhammad got it. Nanak got it. Buddha got it. You're doing it wrong. Here's the right way.
So we actually have kind of a start date for Sikhism, that Nanak formally organized a commune in 1526, so less than 500 years ago, by a small margin.
An anniversary party.
I don't think we'd be the only ones doing so, and I think that's a great idea because it's kind of a big deal. And so this commune he started so that people could come to him and he would teach them. And so he was the guru, and his disciples were called Sikhs, which of course is the Punjabi word for disciple or student.
I'll just mention here that we already start to see, like I said, the baby between Hinduism and Islam, where we use a term like guru, which is used in Hinduism, but it's monotheistic like Islam. So already at the very start of it, it's this little marriage of the two.
Well, when you live in India-Pakistan region, the subcontinent has many languages, and about half of them are closely related. So you're going to have a lot of overlap in labels. In your common religious language, you're going to use some of the same words.
I've noted down 4 other gurus. So the 2nd, 4th, 9th, and 10th guru I listed as noteworthy. Not that the others didn't do anything, but like
these ones are special.
These ones are extra special. So the 2nd guru was Guru Angad, and he is known for standardizing the hymns and starting Sikh scripture. And this book that he started gets super important later on. And
his job was not an easy one.
Tell me more.
So as I was looking into this, he did exactly what you said. He was gathering and sharing the hymns, and he didn't actually start a standardization process until he found out that somebody else who claimed that he ought to be the guru was also spreading hymns.
Ooh.
And so the proper recognized guru, actually put a lot of work in to gather from all these other people who had reliably sourced hymns from Nanak and compiled them into one solid text. And he found a great deal of frustration in that process, but he put a lot of work into it. And he did do some editing, but the book is what it is.
I was just going to ask if the book is considered divine, but I'm about to answer my own question in about 3 gurus. So never mind. I forgot. Guru number 4 was Guru Arjan. He is the first martyred Sikh. So he was put to death by the Mughal Emperor Jahangir.
I can't tell you how to pronounce that.
Who is intolerant of this newer religion. Arjan supervised the compilation of the Sikh holy text, the Adi Granth, which will eventually, I kind of love this, eventually be known as the Guru Granth Sahib, which I can't wait to talk about that fun fact.
Right.
Is there anything you want to add about number 4?
No.
Okay.
I got nothing.
Okay. Number 9, well, we're skipping a whole bunch. So there's 10 total. We're going from 4 to 9. Number 9 was Guru Teg Bahadur. And he was also martyred by the person who built the Taj Mahal. So that was Shah Jahan. And he was martyred for refusing to convert to Islam.
There's a little bit of that in history.
I mean, I didn't dig into it too much, but I'm pretty sure Sikh and Muslims.
There is
butt
a
head
lot
a
of
lot.
direct conflict between the two.
Maybe we'll do another episode just on that.
Yeah.
Number 10 is Guru Gobind Singh, and he was the last human guru. And he was also murdered. He was assassinated. And instead of declaring a new guru, which was the tradition, is when one dies, they pick a new one. To stop I think it was to stop the bloodshed, to be honest, he declared the book the next guru.
It's really hard to kill a book, especially when at this point it's been published and distributed.
And from my understanding, it's like transubstantiation in Christianity, where the Eucharist is literally the body and blood of Christ. Like, this is literally a living, breathing guru, but it's
And doesn't breathe.
it's a living, breathing guru. So the Adi Granth becomes Guru Granth Sahib.
I think it's interesting that from a anthropological point of view, the gurus absolutely fill the role of prophets that we see in other religions.
Yep.
But internally, there's actually a deliberate differentiation. The gurus are teachers, and though they can receive revelations, and they certainly offer them, they are not called prophets.
Guru means teacher, so is it more of a distilling and disseminating of information?
I think that's really the primary difference.
I mean, it's very nuanced at this point when you're dealing with God, but
Right?
it's almost like an interpretation instead of just speaking the revelation. Me trying to reconcile it in my own brain.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I think that's what the difference is.
Okay.
And so, as we mentioned before, it exists in a world where it's competing with Hinduism and Islam, and specifically denouncing both of them outright. Kind of like how the Church of England outright denounces the Church of Rome as being
They're wrong.
awful and wrong.
We were literally made up so Henry VIII could divorce his wife. But Catholics are wrong.
Well, it's a lot easier to validate your position as a rebellious church when you say that the people I'm rebelling against were wrong before I started this fight.
I mean, that's true.
That's literally how all rebellions go. Is we're tired of this thing that we don't agree with.
We didn't start the fire. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know how to segue out of this.
Nope.
Well, Preston, you did a lot of research on their actual beliefs, so I'll let you.
I did a little bit. You did a bunch too.
I really didn't flesh it out, though, so
Okay.
that was your job. Because I'm bad at this part.
So the idea of God in Sikhism is full of similarities to both the God of Abraham as recognized in the Islamic faith and the Brahman of the Hindu faith, that God neither begat nor is he begotten, but also is fully incorporeal, but exists in all things, which of course gets complicated. And there's more and more Christians who have adopted this idea, as we've talked about in our Hinduism episode, of God being greater than the sum of the universe, which is super complicated. And the word that you'll want to look up is panentheism.
That's with an E.
Yes, pan, P-A-N-E-N, theism.
I thought you were talking about the Hunger Games. Panem-theism. I'm kidding. That was a bad joke.
So it's basically all in God-ism. And it's a specific, not totally unique, but not widespread, universally agreed upon subset of pantheism, I think, would be a way to classify that. And it's a way to motivate a respect for literally every living thing, which is not a bad thing. There's a good handful of titles for God, as most religions have. Sikhs will use titles like Ik Onkar, which means one God. You have words like Waheguru, the wondrous Lord or wondrous leader or master, wondrous teacher. So guru being part of that title is what makes it kind of a tricky word. But very often it's translated as wondrous Lord. Even though I mentioned before that there's a respect for all living things, being centered in India, you can't really ignore the caste system. And so most Sikhs aren't terribly concerned with it as far as I've observed. I have a Sikh friend, and though he has mentioned it, it's not really a big deal for most Sikhs by the looks of it.
Yeah, one thing that I was reading about Sikhism is that they're actually really big on equality of men and women. I didn't see anything on the caste system specifically, but that in their system.
It's a lot less important to Sikhs than it is to Hindus, that's for sure.
You know what? I don't know why I didn't do this before our Hinduism episode, but I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
It's like a 2-hour audiobook. Highly recommend. And there's one point that's like, you would hate to come back as a woman. And I was like, excuse me? Excuse me?
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What a great thing to say out loud.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, we'll get to the Keza later, but you can be a female member of that group. They don't care.
Khalsa?
Casa?
Khalsa.
Khalsa?
I'm pretty sure that's an L.
I don't know where my glasses. We'll get to the Khalsa later. But you can be a female member of the Khalsa.
For sure. Ooh, karma's still a thing.
Still a thing. That's interesting to me. I'm curious how they reconcile that with monotheism, because it feels like a very polytheistic idea.
I don't think... So the way we talked about karma before, a couple episodes ago in our Hinduism discussion, so karma is a word that basically means action.
Mm-hmm.
And so your actions, though they may be motivated by the number of gods in your life, this is not...
I mean, if there's 3 or 4 watching, it means to know one.
Your actions are still your actions, and there are consequences for your actions. So karma is still a thing. And so this is an element that definitely came over from that Hinduism idea, or at the very least, by living in India, this became part of the discussion. Reincarnation is part of the deal, which is easy enough to follow from our previous discussions. And the goal, of course, is still to escape, but they use a different word, probably, honestly, just a dialectical issue. The word is mukti instead of moksha. It sounds an awful lot like the same word in a different dialect.
Yeah. They just changed it a little bit.
Religion.
For copyright reasons. I'm trying to think of like Cheetos versus Cheesies.
Yeah. Maybe.
We'll just make it a Z instead of a toe.
Yeah.
And they won't come out right.
And the interesting thing that I don't remember seeing so much in the Hinduism discussion, but definitely came up in our Buddhist discussion, that life is suffering, life is hell. For Sikhs, hell is life on earth. You want to escape that. So the goal, of course, is to eventually achieve mukti and escape the cycle of suffering.
I don't remember what the 4 notions of guruship are. Did you add that?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, let's talk about Maya and the 5 thieves.
Oh, who's Maya?
Maya is a term that appears in Sikh scripture, and it means like infatuation or desire for things that you shouldn't have, like worldly things. That's what Maya is.
Okay.
And there's similar concepts. I mean, it, I guess, would be like sin. You know,
Right.
wanting things that you shouldn't want, essentially.
Okay. And so what are these thieves?
The 5 thieves, very similar. Lust, anger, greed, attachment, and pride.
All right. So it's kind of like the 7 deadly sins, but there's fewer of them.
Yeah, so
And-
you can be lazy
Right.
and you can eat a lot. I think that's the only 2, sloth and gluttony.
Yeah. Sloth and gluttony are gone. attachment's not one of the 7, so there's another one that's missing to be replaced here by attachment. Do I need to pull up a list of what the 7 deadly sins are? Because I can't remember all of them right now.
I mean, I don't sin, so I'm kidding.
7 deadly sins. Google power. All right. So the 7 deadly sins are pride, greed,
Yep.
lust is on there,
Yep.
envy.
Oh, envy.
Envy is the one we're missing.
Attachment,
I feel
almost
less bad
that.
having forgotten envy.
right? And I think attachment sort of almost touches on that, right?
It's definitely an associated principle,
Right,
for
like
sure.
if you think of what you're envious of people for, it's because you have you want something that they have. There's an attachment piece to worldly objects there.
See, now I'm thinking of the Jedi shoe attachment.
Yeah. Are Sikhs just Jedi?
You know what?
Probably
I
the
think
closest.
as we look through the list of how things go from this point forward, we'll see a few more parallels.
I like that. I actually really like the Sikh practices, which we'll get into in a minute. But yes. So these 5 things, lust, anger, greed, attachment, pride, not to be confused with the 7 deadly sins, although very similar, will stop you from reaching this mukti reincarnation.
Or if you want to have a unapproved approach to Sikh practice, you can continually indulge in these things to ensure another resurrection or reincarnation. If you don't want to leave this earth, if you don't want to achieve mukti,
You're just loving
do
that
all the bad
lust
things.
so much.
I mean, if that's the way you want to live.
I feel like this is a good segue into Satanism.
Yeah, that's a show for another day. So there's another handy. Remember, you talked about you love numbers.
I love numbers and your beliefs. Make it easy for me.
So what are the 3 pillars?
3 pillars, not to be confused with the 5 pillars of Islam.
They decided keep the list short.
He looked at Christianity, 7 deadly sins, and the 5 pillars of Islam. He's like, we can shorten this. So there are 3 pillars to Sikhism. Nam Japo, which is meditation, the chanting of God's name and reflecting on God. This God time prayer would be a white person term.
It's pretty standard principle, common among most religious practices, and easy to accept in a neighbor, I think.
Yep. The next one's Karat Karni. It's kind of like Dharma, kind of like Hindu Dharma, but not quite Hindu Dharma. It's about doing honest work and making a living, contributing to society. There's nothing in there like in Hindu Dharma where it's like accepting your circumstances. It's just contributing, kind of being a good neighbor.
Being a good member of your community.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah, I did
That's
too.
a really great way of saying don't be a dick, because you're taking the positive language of be a not dick.
Be a not dick. I like that, Preston. New t-shirt idea. And the third pillar, like how many are we on, is one chakna. And this is donations, giving back to that community that you're a part of in the form of food or money, monetary donations. And in my research, I might have to say the Sikhs might be the best at this. And I know part of that is the cultural makeup of where we live and proportions of people, but I'm going to have a story to share later when we start talking about the Gurdwara. And I think Sikhs do this very well in the sense that they give to the greater community, whereas a lot of religious groups just give to their religious community.
If you don't come to our church, we won't feed you.
Yeah. You get all these gifting perks, that's giving perks if you're in the community, but if you're outside the community, you might not. So, yeah. Anyway, those are the 3 pillars.
Mm-hmm.
Let's come back to turbans and tests.
That's what I was just thinking.
This part I had a lot of fun researching was like the day-to-day practices of Sikhs. This is where I usually leave the historical stuff for Preston because I like the nitty-gritty. What does it look like if you're a Sikh human? So Sikhs pray 3 times a day. Again, looked at Islam, was like, that's too much. Let's
5 times is hard. Even 4 is too many. Just do 3, man.
So morning when they wake up, sunset, and before they go to bed. Now, as a Canadian who lives pretty far north, I feel like that can be hard because sometimes you go to bed before sunset.
It's only in the summer. And
And if
honestly,
you're
me,
Katie,
almost never.
If you're Katie, frequently.
I very seldom go to bed before sunset.
That's not okay.
Especially not in winter when the sun goes down at 3:30.
No, but when it goes down at 11:30, yeah, you go to bed before that.
In the summertime, I'm up until midnight
Gross.
almost every night anyway.
Gross. And hymns are a large part of the prayer process. Getting back on track, hymns are a big part of the prayer process. That feels like the wrong word, but prayer tradition for Sikhs.
So instead of a regular church service like you're used to seeing in, I don't know, like mass or your evangelical stand up and scream at each other thing.
Even imams, right, have sermons.
Yeah.
They're equivalent of, I don't know if they call them sermons, but.
I don't know. I imagine in mostly English communities, that would be the word that they learn for English for what's going on there. Sikhs have gurudwaras that are open pretty much all the time, right?
Yes. So there's no, so from my and even searching local gurdwaras is it doesn't matter what day it is. It's not like in Christianity where it is Sunday because that was the day he rose. They'll just like pick a day and stick with it, but there's no significant meaning. I think, and I imagine in like probably not COVID times and even denser Sikh populations, they'd be open all the time. I think the one I looked up was Thursday, and that's probably just for routine in people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
But yes.
Yeah, there's plenty of Christians who in Dubai are willing to meet on Friday because that's when everyone else is doing their
So you may as well,
masjid meetings. So it's like, yeah, this is what makes sense instead of Sunday. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
The
service is called a kirtan.
Ooh.
And it's communal singing. So like I said, hymns, song is very important in Sikhism. You're going to sing.
So not terribly alien to the popular traditions around here.
No, but I think there isn't I haven't been and we should go, but I don't think there's a speaking portion. I think it's all this communal singing.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
I think that's cool. Unless I'm the one singing, everyone will be like, no, don't come back. Go to the kitchen. Run away.
We have something else we'd rather you do. That's fine, though. All right. We mentioned Khalsa earlier. Took us a while.
You forgot a part that's really important and exciting to me, the food part.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to mention it because it's
Rewind a little
really
bit.
important to me, apparently. After a Sikh service, there is a communal meal served in a kitchen, or a langar is the term for it. And I love this. So anyone can go after service and you can eat for free. And they purposely make the meal vegetarian, not because they're vegetarians, but because then any other religious group can come and eat. So if you're a Jewish person and you're hungry, you can go to a gurdwara and eat. If you're an Islamic person, a Muslim, and you're starving, you can go and eat there. So anyone, and that's the point too. It's like this idea of a soup kitchen, that if you're hungry, you can come and eat here and not have to worry about it, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense too, coming from the intersection of Hindu and Islamic traditions. You've got a lot of dietary restrictions.
Right, beef and Hinduism.
And they're not, they don't overlap much at all, really.
No beef, pork, dairy. You can't eat any of it.
I mean, most Hindus don't eat a lot of meat or much at all.
Yeah.
But some do. And Muslims have very strict rules on a lot of the food that they can
Jewish
eat.
people with pork and dairy mixing, or meat and dairy mixing, and then not eating pork at all. Yeah.
Just keeping it vegetarian is the simple answer.
Yeah. And this is where that story I alluded to. Are you on Nextdoor?
I am.
You are?
I mean, barely, but yeah.
So for if you don't know what Nextdoor is, it is a social networking app that is sorted by your geographical region. So I could post that I need my sidewalk shoveled, and everyone in my neighborhood would be notified, and the people nearby could contact me, as an example. And I saw a post, and I mean, I don't want to shame anyone, but it was basically like, hard financial times, and he was like, I need food, cigarettes, and weed. And basically everyone who commented was like, cigarettes and weed, like,
we can help you with food.
Yeah, you're kind of pushing it. But again, I'm not here to judge. Anyway, and it was a gentleman and with a South Asian name, and he commented, he said, yeah, I'm not going to do the cigarettes or weed, but I will bring you food. And I kept reading the thread, and it sounds like he followed through and delivered him food. And this gentleman commented, like, yep, he was in dire straits. He needed food. So, stop giving me a hard time about the weed and cigarettes. And then the guy who received commented and was very grateful. Thank you so much. I want to learn more about you and your culture and your community. And the guy commented and he said, yep, Sikhs are all about, giving to our community and helping people when they need them. So it was nice to see that after doing all this research on the Gurdwara and being able to, come and grab a free meal, and that they actually, like you said, like some random ass stranger being like, I need weed and food. And he was like, yep, I'm not going to judge you for when literally, including myself, everyone was like, really, you're asking for cigarettes and weed with your food? He's like, no, I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to help you with that part, but I will come and bring you food. And he did. And I was like, little hope in the world. So that's my happy Sikh story of the week.
I like it. All right. So there is a subset of Sikhism, these people who are initiated into a deeper part of the tradition. And the word for this extra committed group within the larger group is the Khalsa. And they're actually super cool. And
super cool.
I did some deep digging into what goes on, and I think it's really pretty nifty. These people are a lot more likely to look like your stereotypical Sikhs.
I think that's where the look comes from, is the Khalsa, but you don't need to, so we'll get more into it, but like turbans are worn by the Khalsa, but you don't need to be in the Khalsa to wear a turban. But everyone in the Khalsa will wear a turban.
Almost without exception, but it's actually not a strict requirement.
Interesting.
It's generally expected for sure, but it's not a strict requirement.
All right.
Depending on who you talk to, I guess. I'm sure if your parents are like really into it, they get mad at you for not wearing a turban to cover your long hair. Yeah. But we'll get into that. It's a little bit more orthodox. You've got an extra set of rules, and there's some prerequisites for the initiation ceremony. You are specifically forbidden from wearing any jewelry or mark associated with any other faith or god. Like, if you're walking in with a crucifix, you're gonna be turned away. Oh. If you got a rosary tattoo on your foot, you will be turned away.
Even if you've converted to Sikhism?
Yeah, according to what I read, yes.
Wow.
If you have any tattoo that is a permanent mark of any other faith, you won't be admitted to the Khalsa initiation ceremony.
I want to say something sassy. I'm biting my tongue though.
Conversion obviously is a thing that is enjoyed by every faith. That if you want to join my faith, that's cool. That's a celebrated thing. But there's rules for the Khalsa, and apparently that's one of them. And you also can't go through the ceremony if you have piercings of any kind. So I'm just gonna let that stop. I don't need to. Y'all know what I'm saying. Piercings of any kind, no good. I don't know why I felt the need to explain further. What a piercing is.
Yeah, I was like, are you getting extra graphic or something?
I don't know what I was thinking there. I don't need to explain what a piercing is.
No, sure don't. If you do not know what a piercing is, please drop us a line on our Discord.
Or, feel free to Google it.
No, drop us a line on our Discord. No.
We would love to have you and everybody join us on Discord, and we can have productive, healthy conversations about religion and have a lot of fun.
The nature of piercings.
And the nature of piercings. We also share some great memes. I know that everybody loves memes. If you don't appreciate memes, you are an alien to me. I don't know. Anyway, but the most visible things we want to get into for how to identify the Khalsa. You've got the 5Ks.
Don't you think Katie should go through the 5Ks?
I think so. Okay. I don't want to monopolize all this time.
No, and
But you know what? Remember how we cut down all these lists? Instead of 7 deadly sins, we had the 5 things that I don't know why I can't remember the word right now. And then we took the 5 pillars, cut it down to 3 pillars. I'm really glad it's 5 Ks.
All right. So K number 1 is the Kes. This is uncut hair and beard forming the lion's mane. And we'll get into the significance of the lion later. Do you want to jump into that now?
I want to jump into it right now. I think it's really cool. The fellow who started the Khalsa was the 10th guru, Gobind Singh. And so...
Not the book. I'm kidding.
No, that's...
No, I know. I'm just
thing.
imagining a book having a ceremony, holding a ceremony. It's funny, my brain.
It's not outside the realm of logic, but...
Yes, Gobind Singh, number 10.
Yeah, his name was Singh. And so Singh means lion. And so for all the men who become part of this group of Khalsa, they're meant to grow out their hair and never ever cut it ever again. And same goes with their beard, causing this huge frame of hair that is meant to resemble, in their tradition, the lion.
And this is why the last name Singh is so popular, because all men in the Khalsa were encouraged to take the last name Singh.
Yeah.
And then when there's 25 million, how many million? 25 million Sikhs around the world?
Becomes a
very
group.
common last name. So that's number 1. And I'm going to jump in here. And women were encouraged to take the last name Kaur, K-A-U-R, Kaur.
Means
which
princess.
means princess. Not part of well, that would be for Khalsa women as well.
Yeah.
I'm diverting from the 5Ks a little bit, but I just wanted to make sure I pointed out that for the women as well. Number 2 is the Kanga, which is a wooden comb worn in this hair that doesn't get cut. And it reminds you to be clean and tidy and should be used twice a day. Number 3 is the Kirpan, which is a steel sword or dagger. And it is your oath to immediately defend all those in danger. So I think present day Khalsa absolutely do carry a small knife all the time, but it's definitely not like a big old broadsword.
Yeah, you see a lot fewer swords today, but typically these people are armed.
Yeah, they will carry a knife.
And I'm sure loads of people are threatened by the idea of a muscular brown man being armed at all times. But if you see a 300-pound white dude with cowboy boots and a gun in his pocket, I'm intimidated by that more.
Okay, even when some of my guy friends, like I've like needed stuff done, and they'll just like whip out this massive knife. I'm like, you're just carrying that.
There was years where I would always have a pocket knife with me, but I also used it on a regular basis.
Yeah,
and that hasn't been the case for a while, so I don't carry a knife with me habitually anymore.
This friend, I'm thinking it was a contractor, but like I forget what I had him over for. He just like whipped out this massive knife, and I was like, okay. I mean, you're right, obviously used something, but like my point is that if you're worried about a Sikh being armed, all of your friends are armed with a knife, probably.
Probably. I really like that it's more about being prepared than it is about being threatening. And we'll get into that a little bit more as we look at some further points.
The 4th K is the Kara, or a steel ring or bracelet worn on the right wrist. It is the link in the community chain, and it is a reminder to be mindful of what they are doing with their hands. Oh my.
Yeah. It's that simple.
Is it really as simple as my 12-year-old boy brain?
Maybe.
Okay.
I mean, that's part of it.
Okay. All right. Number 5 is the Kachh, K-A-C-H-H, shorts with a drawstring belt. This is to remind one to avoid lust, one of the 5 thieves, and always be prepared to fight against attackers.
Yeah.
You want to explain that one to me?
So just like the Kirpan, the Sikhs, at least earlier in their history, a little bit more visible than where we are in the world in history, there's the need to be vigilant and to be ready to stand up and defend somebody in need at all times. And so the kach, these shorts, are worn all the time. A lot of men will bathe in them and then put on dry ones after the bath, changing them off one leg at a time. Like, unleg one, put on new shorts on that leg, and then take the wet ones off the second leg and then pull them back
See,
up.
that seems more hindering if you had to run in a fight right away.
It does. Logistically, it's tricky. But it's more
I
of a
understand
matter
the
of
concept.
always
Yes, I
wearing
understand
them.
the concept of always wearing them. But
Yeah.
if
It's a commitment to the article of clothing rather than the principle it embodies, the way I see it.
because I totally get that you don't want to be caught naked in a bath and then have to fight for someone's life.
Yes.
But having two pairs of pants on at the same time is worse than being naked to fight off for someone's life.
I think you're right.
Actually, just two pairs of pants on at the same time, period, is worse than being naked.
No, I'm just imagining a dude walking around with two pairs of jeans, but not overlapping.
I'm going to go try this later today when you leave.
I
I'm going to
believe
put on
you
two
will.
pairs. I have two pairs of leggings just like the ones I'm wearing. I'm going to go take one off and put and I won't
That'd be a fun way to surprise Bryant.
Oh, just two legs wibbling between, two pant legs wibbling between my legs. Okay.
So, though I appreciate the kach 100%, that particular practice does seem a little tricky.
Hopefully you're not having to fight so often that it becomes an actual
Right.
logistical problem.
Right. And that's one of the advantages, I guess, is that usually that's not a real life problem. So those are the 5Ks, and they may be listed in different orders depending on who you ask. But there's also bonus
You
points.
have so many bonus points. I can't wait to hear them all.
I love them, actually. So there are additional articles of clothing for the Khalsa. Panj Kapar, or Panj Kapar, or Panj Kapare. I'm going to admit I have no idea how to say that for sure.
Again, as scholars, we've only read the words.
Yeah. So that there is more clothing that is associated with Sikhs who are ready to go out into battle. So dastar is the word for turban, even though I think turban is an Arabic word or derived from an Arabic word. The Indian dastar is basically it is the same thing. And then there's the Sikh chola, which is specifically military garments, which are actually kind of cool to look at. Worth Googling. You got to be careful, though. When you look for chola, include the word Sikh. Otherwise, you're just going to get a bunch of pictures of Spanish girls.
I'll pop a picture of Sikh Chola in our Discord.
Do it.
Yeah.
All right. There's also Hazuria. Looking up the description of the Hazuria did not help me at all. The entire time I was imagining a little grasping claw like you can buy at Dollarama.
Is that what those are called?
No. But the description that I found was not nearly as helpful as I would have liked. I had to Google image search Hazuria and found out that it's basically a fancy napkin. Its function is to keep your hands clean and also to keep you humble. Though you'll find a lot of people that's mutually exclusive, at least among white folks. That's a problem we have. But it's a thing that if you want to pick a thing up off the ground, you don't want to get your hands dirty when you do this picking
I see
up.
what you mean. Okay.
You would have this Hazuria napkin type thing that you would pick it up with and keep your fingers clean.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's not even crazy.
No.
In fact, yeah, it does sound a little
yeah, your
offensive.
wording there was not great. I understand what you're saying.
No,
But it was
it's
great.
perfectly reasonable. In fact, most of what we see in Sikhism and most religions, most things are completely reasonable. I think, objectively speaking, there's usually something in most faiths that is far outside reasonable, but most of the things need to be acceptable to the everyday person.
They don't last very long.
No, I think the most reasonable things
That's
tend
what I
to
mean.
last,
If they're
yeah.
not reasonable, then
Yes.
the religion doesn't last very long.
Yes.
When we get to our cult episode.
All right. And then there's more of these bonus points for the Khalsa. There is the Kamar Kasa, which is a belt to hold weapons. Because some people may be offended by this idea, but the fully committed Khalsas typically have more than just the kirpan. There was a time where there was a list of 5 things that a truly prepared Khalsa would be armed with. You've got the chakram, which if you've played, say, Mortal Kombat, you might know what a chakram is. It's a round blade.
Like a frisbee round?
Like a frisbee round, but it's hollow in the middle.
Okay, yeah.
So that you can wear it around your turban. It serves to protect your head and your hair and your turban from sword strikes. So it's fully steel, strong, but it's also sharp. Probably not all the way around, so that you've got something to grip with if you wanted to hit somebody with it. Like you in Mortal Kombat or Soul Calibur, when you see a chakram, there's usually a handle bit. Of course, in a lot of popular media in the last 15, 20 years, you'll see chakrams with handles in the middle, or they're half circles with a handle through them. These are completely useless to wear on your head.
Yeah.
But
unless you got a real weird shaped head.
Or you tied your turban in a way that accommodates this weird shaped chakram. But for the most part, they were round things with a sharp blade on the outside. They would protect your head and could be used as handheld weapons in theory, though probably not on the regular, because you would want to keep that on your head for combat. There was also the Qatar, which is a small push dagger, a lot smaller than your kirpan. And it's not so slashy, it's thrusting weapon.
Pokey poke.
There was also the pesh kabs, which is a narrow knife, usually pretty long, but narrow, so that you could force it.
Like a hairpin, sort of.
Well, I'm going to say...
There's a name for a pointy stick.
Yeah, that's. I guess that's not unfair. It's designed to be able to pop through chainmail, which, I mean, these people are prepared for all of the combat of the world 500 years ago. And then, my favorite, there was a new addition to the list, which made it a list of 5 a little while ago, that has since been outright banned by the Indian government for reasons that may become clear when I tell you what this 5th item is.
What is it? Oh my God, tell me.
It's a pistol. The 5th weapon in this Panj Shastar is usually a matchlock pistol or a 6-shooter. We're talking back in the good old days. If you're carrying a 9mm with you, sure, fine. But I feel like most people today feel pretty similar to the way the Indian government did when they said, hey, maybe don't.
Maybe don't.
And when they made this ban, it would have been really easy to accept the rule, but also would have been easy to rebel against it. It did look a lot like a specific anti-religious movement law, but there was enough people who were like, yeah, we need to follow the laws of the land. So they were willing to cut the firearm from their list of weapons.
Just have a whole bunch of knives.
I mean, so many blades, which makes a guy look badass.
I would be curious what percentage of Sikhs are part of the Khalsa. I don't look into anything on that. But, and I'm sure a portion of the Canadian population of Sikhs are part of the Khalsa, but I've never seen anyone with a chakram.
No.
I feel like that one is also...
It's not one of the 5Ks. These are just bonus points.
Oh, okay. Right.
I did preface that whole list of bonus points with that
So not every Khalsa will be fully armed.
Right.
Okay.
In fact,
fully armed
day to day,
probably,
I think very few Khalsa are. Yeah.
5,000,
well, and
5K.
So the turban is one of those bonus points that if you're going to keep your hair clean, it's a lot easier if it's covered.
Yeah.
And so even though it's a bonus point, almost everybody who goes with their hair uncut is wearing a turban.
And again, just because you go with uncut hair does not make you part of the Khalsa.
Right.
So there is some, I don't want to say the regular Sikh sounds so bad, but some will be clean shaven and some will not cut their hair. And again, that can be men or women. So sometimes you'll see female Sikhs with turbans. And
Yeah, I have a friend. I miss seeing him. He's spending a whole lot of time outside the city, and then pandemic makes it hard to socialize on a face-to-face basis, but super cool guy. And he does wear the shorts, but doesn't wear a turban. He keeps his hair short. So I mean, the 5Ks aren't exclusive to the Khalsa, but they're obviously expected by the Khalsa.
Yes. So to become a part of the Khalsa, there is an initiation ceremony. It's kind of similar to a baptism like we would see in Christianity. And new members drink Amrit, which is a sweetened water.
It's got nectar in it.
And they take on additional rules in terms of doctrine and personal conduct that the average Sikh doesn't need to follow. This, the 5Ks being part of that.
For sure. We already talked about how Gobind Singh made requests of people to use new last names. Singh meaning lion, Kaur meaning princess.
Oh, I'm going to...
There's the word.
Oh, yeah, just lower down in our notes. I'm going to throw it out because it's a good word. So the term Kesdari, referring to Kes, the uncut hair. Kesdari means hair-bearing. You can be a Kesdari and not part of the Khalsa. But that's just a cool term to play in Scrabble.
Right.
I keep mentioning Scrabble every episode. Use it at Christmas with your family. Be like, do you know what a Kesdari is? And they'll be like, no, tell us. And then you'll say, there's this really great podcast that I listen to. You should listen to it too.
Right.
Thank
you.
you.
It's a great way to work our podcast into your holiday time with your family. All right. So in North America, there is a growing number of Sikhs. In fact, there's a growing movement of non-Indian Sikhs. The Sikh Dharma International is a group that was founded about 50 years ago down in the southern states. Not the crazy south, which is a population where Sikhs would not feel welcome. But in California and New Mexico, there's actually a growing population of people of multinational descent. And a very diverse place where most religions are accepted. I think that's why Scientology is headquartered there, more or less-ish.
It's not in California.
Okay, they're not headquartered there. They just have a lot of power there.
Yes, they're Hollywood
that makes sense
there, but they're not headquartered in California.
Okay.
We'll get to
Scientology is a different day.
Yep.
But anyway, the Sikh Dharma International is based in Los Angeles and California and New Mexico. Just said them and they escaped my mind, but I brought them back. They also typically wear white robes, and so they're called white Sikhs by a lot of folks. Not just because they've got white skin, but they augment this by having white robes.
Oh.
But yeah, they are mostly white. So there's that growing movement here in North America. And men and women wear turbans, which is, I don't think, standard. I think the turban is mostly for men, and women will cover their hair, but not in a turban as far as I've seen outside of the white Sikh group.
I've never seen
a woman with a turban.
No, I have seen a woman with a turban. That's what I'm saying.
I was guessing.
I've never seen a female Sikh cover her hair in a way of not a turban. Because they don't wear scarves. They don't wear hijabs. I either see them just own their long hair or wear a turban.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we're seeing different things, and that's okay because we don't live in the same part of town.
No.
Anyway, that's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. A downside to being a Sikh in North America is that for the last 20 years, maybe longer, but it's become more of a problem in the last 20 years, is there's a lot of anti-Islamic, I wrote a different word in my notes, but anti-Islamic people are...
He wrote psychos.
I did.
And I don't disagree.
Now that it's been recorded, yeah. These people are extremely Islamophobic, and they've decided to start attacking Sikhs because they can't tell the difference, even though there's not a lot of Muslims wearing turbans around here.
No, there's no reason for a Muslim to wear a turban. And I mean, first of all, it shouldn't matter.
Right.
Let's just clear that up, is that it shouldn't matter.
Well, one of the big number one offense that inspires all of this is the Twin Tower attacks on September 11th, 2001. I mean, these people came from a different part of the world. They look different from each other. And the people who did the attacks are dead. Attacking people who happen to share some philosophical and religious traditions makes no sense at all. It's not okay. Let alone associating completely separate people.
Right. This is not a political podcast, but in Canada, our new Democratic Party, or quite left-wing party leader, Jagmeet Singh, he is Sikh.
He's a Sikh.
He's a Sikh. And he put it really well once, which is why I bring it up, not to get political, but he had received some anti-Muslim, Islamophobic comments. And somebody asked him, why didn't you correct them and say that you're a Sikh? And he said, because it shouldn't matter. Shouldn't matter, which I really liked. Like, doesn't matter if you're wrong. You shouldn't be attacking. It's not about saying, oh, sorry, you have the wrong person. I'm not Muslim. Go attack Muslims. He's like, it doesn't matter. They're wrong regardless. So
doesn't matter why you're wrong. Stop being a dick.
Yeah, thank you. So I thought I think Preston and Jagmeet Singh put it more eloquently than I could have. But yeah, basically don't be a dick. And I think it, again, don't attack anyone anyway. But that's part of the reason we're doing this podcast. Like,
to help you be informed.
Like, yeah. I mean, I'm not condoning Islamophobia, but like, if you're going to be Islamophobic, at least be a lot Islamophobic to
at least
Muslim.
do it right.
At least do it right. Like, I don't want to condone it, but like,
if we
you're
can't
gonna
change,
do it.
If we can't change your mind on whether or not you should do a thing, at least figure out how to do it properly.
Right? I don't know. I mean, it just goes to show how ignorant they are in their Islamophobia, because they don't even know what they're scared of. And that's why I'm here today. And that goes for any religion, right? If you're... I feel like I need to step up on the soapbox, and I'm trying not to, because...
It's so easy to be reminded that people suck an awful lot of the time, but we can all be better.
I feel like we should really quickly just record a bonus that we should wrap up Sikhism, but a bonus episode of the genocide in China.
We could.
We need to wrap up Sikhism, but now I'm getting on the soapbox because there's this Muslim genocide in China, and I was on Facebook, which was my first mistake, and CBC made a post about it, and everyone's like, oh, Trudeau's being such a pussy. He needs to call out this genocide, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is literally the same group of people that 2 weeks ago on a post about Muslims in Canada were like, go back to your country. We don't want Sharia law. And it's like, so you're fine to call it a genocide when you don't have to look at it, but you're happy to promote violence against Muslims here?
People suck.
I was like... ready to flip I just got on Facebook.
So I have the idea, the what looks to me like the prevailing principle of Sikhism.
The thesis of Sikhism.
Yeah. And I really like it. That Sikhism is not about hearing voices from God, as we see a lot in religious traditions. It's about changing the nature of the human mind.
I like that.
Anybody can have personal, direct experiences with divine, and they can achieve spiritual perfection at any time, which is more ethereal, and also it doesn't require you to be any place to be able to communicate with the divine, because the divine is everything, and everything is in the divine.
I really like learning about Sikhism, and I am excited to go to a Gurdwara when this pandemic's over with you.
Right? It'll be a lot of fun.
And learn some more and eat some food.
Right? Anytime I can get free food, it's a delight. But also being able to break, well, I assume there's bread. Being able to break bread with
it'd definitely be
people
like naan or roti or something. But yeah.
That's A-okay by me.
Right.
That's a good experience.
I think so. And South Asian cultures in general are very open to teaching and feeding. So I think it'll be a good experience for us when we can go do that. And we'll come back and record an episode on it when we get that chance. hopefully in the fall, but
Right?
we'll see.
Well, that's basically it for the notes that we have on Sikhism. And thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
At Holy Watermelon Pod,
Feel free to email us your questions.
holywatermelonpod@gmail.com.
But even better, join us on...
Discord?
That's the one I'm looking for.
Join us on our Discord. We will be posting links on our social media, Instagram and Facebook. Let us know. We'd love to have you part of the conversation, make suggestions, ask questions. We do address questions in our episodes, so send them on over. And peace be with you.
By the late Middle Ages, the Christian prophecy had fulfilled itself.
God is near.